This is Reality Check. I'm Matt.
And I'm Chris. We're two licensed therapists.
And two military veterans.
And we're here to smash societal fantasy
so you can live in reality. Welcome back to Reality Check.
Today's reality check: people are not obliged to acknowledge your feelings.
This is an important point here because we live in a society where we force everybody to label us how we say, treat us how we say.
Yeah.
But here to me is the biggest point. We have to acknowledge ourselves. We have to affirm ourselves. We have to find ourselves. And then we exert ourselves in society. This is actually the formula that works when we go the opposite way. And we say, and I'll just use whatever. I mean, because this furry thing is becoming a big thing now, where I demand that you don't call me he, she, they. It's like it, or it's cat, or it's fox. But here's the thing: it doesn't work.
Right. Which is funny that you said it, because very rarely do like the pronoun people like to be called it. Which again, they like to use they them, which is bullshit. Because again, it's a plural pronoun, right? It's meant to describe a group. If you want to be singular neutral, it's it, right? Like it puts the lotion on its skin, right? But they don't want to do that because they feel like what? It dehumanizes them. Well, guess what? If you go down the route of non-binary, if you go down the route of like, I want my pronouns to be whatever flavor of the week it is, you're already dehumanizing yourself. It's only a level of dehumanization that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, and I love that you're talking about it in that way, because when we see people in our clinical practice and we see that they've dehumanized themselves, that's what it actually is.
Yes.
We can do one of two things. We can help them go down the rabbit hole,
right?
Which is what some therapists unfortunately do.
I won't do it.
I won't either.
I never use the whole I don't use the pronoun things because I'm like, what does that give you? What need does that mean?
Well, the need that's missing that we really have to hit here is the need to love yourself, to find yourself for who you truly are. And we can explore another gender, we can explore another species, we can explore a lot of things. But at the end of the day, that's all first system stuff. And this is a good time to talk about first and second systems in psychology. The first system is the surface level system. And we need it because we meet someone and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and this is what I do. But you don't say, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I was raped when I was 5, and I was beaten by my father when I was 6, and and my parents abandoned me, and I feel like trash every day. We don't do that,
right?
Because that's what's really going on, that second system stuff. In the first system, how are you doing? Oh, great. My mom died yesterday. I'm great, right? And if you ever had lost a loved one, how many times have you told someone you're doing just fine when you're terrible inside?
Yes.
Because that terrible inside is the second system where we can't lie to ourselves.
No.
So here's what happens. I just want to explain this real briefly. When you've experienced trauma, when you've experienced some kind of damage to your psyche, right? And by psyche, we're talking about the soul of who you are.
Yeah.
And you don't connect with your body, you don't connect with yourself, you don't connect with your gender, you don't connect with your personality, you don't connect with your family, your race, your religion, these kind of things. Then what happens is we kind of have this emptiness, and we kind of float in this really ethereal kind of a space when it feels like maybe other people have their feet on the ground. And so it's very natural to explore, well, what am I then, and all of that. But the thing you have to understand with people is when you force that, it leads to an unnatural and unhealthy kind of resolution that doesn't work, because you're floating around in this first system. But in the second system, you really are a male or you really are a female.
Right.
And whatever we do to change that, now we're in the first system, and it's not actual reality. And this isn't criticism, this isn't hate, this is a reality. We have real conversations, and my clients appreciate real conversations that we have. Your biology is your biology. Your chromosomes are your chromosomes. We've talked about this. Women's limbic systems are larger. Their hips are larger. They develop breasts. They produce eggs. And there's nothing we can actually do to become that other thing. But why do we need to? And I finish with this, and I'll let you talk here. But our self, the self that we could find, is so wonderful and so brilliant that we don't need to explore all this other stuff. And so in society, when we continue just to keep doing this and say, oh, I have to say they, and I have to do this and that, we're actually not helping them, and we think we are. And the reason why so many people do it and are compelled to do it is because they don't want the target on their back. They don't want to be seen as somebody who hates. But you have to help somebody, my position especially, live in reality. And if the reality is that you're a male, then that's your reality. Now, you might not like that reality. but we can come to love that reality and accept it. And so come back to your point about no one's obligated to, acknowledge your feelings or they're not. I mean, look, I have, my own racial backgrounds, religious backgrounds, all kinds of things, and I've had people use these against me and say things, and it's part of life.
And it only hurts you if you actually define yourself by that.
Well,
we talked before in the past about people hating themselves. And that's the thing, is like, I hate myself. I can't sit with myself. What can I identify as? Well, I'm just going to I'm going to put my identity in these pronouns. I'm going to put my identity in whatever gobbledygook I decide to dress myself up as. I want to identify as this other gender because that gets me one step further away from myself. Because again, I hate myself. And I would intrinsically mistrust somebody who was just the blank ticket enabler. Like, I want to try on the dress today. Oh yeah, queen, like, go ahead and we'll talk about hormone replacement, and we'll talk about like transitioning to a woman and da 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 da, instead of like, okay, like experiment with that, but if you're to the level where you need to change your pronouns and identify as another gender, like maybe we should get you some help. And
then mutilate yourself. I mean, this is a really sad thing when it happens. I've seen too many cases where people have gone through this. You can't call it anything but self-mutilation.
No.
Cut off your own breast, cut off your own penis, take these hormones, for a woman, or a man, like, there's different things that happen, but there can be voice changes and things, and they're permanent things. And puberty blockers, it's just a terrible, terrible thing to do.
No.
Here's the thing you have to understand. If you are not connected, if you have this self-hatred, a lot of times it is easy to hate yourself when you don't feel connected to yourself. So we have to remember the first and second system and how important it is.
No.
And people do a lot less dangerous things. Sometimes it'll be, I'm going to go, well, that's dangerous, but ride on a motorcycle really fast so I can feel a sensation, which is out here, rather than deal with real internal emotion, which is in here. People drink a lot. People, they're workaholics, or they spend their time with animals so they don't have to with people. And like, there's all kinds of things people do to not experience what's in here.
Right.
But here's the thing. It doesn't work to have people praise you, to have people label you the way they want. And if this is what you're looking for validation, the reason why we don't need to be validating everyone is because it doesn't work. And I want to talk about this because we know a lot of celebrities who have committed suicide.
Right.
Just to go down a list of some very common ones. Heath Ledger, it's overdosed, but there's more to it than that. Robin Williams and Axl Rose, not Axl Rose, sorry, wrong one, Nirvana.
Kurt Cobain.
Kurt Cobain. But we have to understand about a lot of these, and particularly Robin Williams, who so many people knew and loved, or thought they thought they loved him, but they didn't actually know him. But one of the most lonely human beings alive.
Right.
So if external praise for what you do or what you look like worked, I think Robin Williams would still be alive. I think Heath Ledger would still be alive.
Right.
I think Chris Farley would still be alive. I think Kurt Cobain would still be alive, because it doesn't work. And so here's the big thing. We see a lot of things about transgender and suicide, and we try to blame people who don't want to say the they and all of this stuff. And actually it's not true.
No.
I actually blame more the people who you talked about, who say, oh, to their child, oh, my boy, he likes this dress. Oh, you're a girl now.
Right.
Do you not realize how much you're destroying your child?
No.
But you're pushing them down this road they're not ready to go down. Children explore, and child has to find who they are. And how can they find who they are is if you as a parent or an educator or a doctor or anybody tries to tell them who they are and then force them into that box.
Now, I was just talking to you about a movie called like Little Giants. Solid movie, by the way. Rick Moranis, Christina Ricci. How different would that movie be instead of Rick Moranis going like, oh, hey, daughter, like, you want to play football? Okay, like, let's make a football team. Like, let's make it happen. Versus, like, the 2022 version where it's like, hey, Dad, like, I want to be more masculine and I want to play football. Well, shit, like, let's sign you up for hormone replacement. Like, let's chop off your breasts. Like, let's take some skin off your elbow and make you a fake dick. Like, let's just go all the way.
Like, how ridiculous is all of this? And people are actually doing this. And to me, it's nothing short of sick. If somebody is disturbed enough that they could self-mutilate, that they could go in these directions of furries and other things, They need some help. They need
No.
actual, real love. See, this is not real love when you say, oh, I'm going to support you, I'm going to buy you a litter box. That's not. That's keeping you stuck in this horrible delusion that you're in.
No.
And it's like going down the rabbit hole, and you're going to have to live in Wonderland forever. In this crazy place where you have cards that run after you trying to cut off your head. Like, you don't want to live in that place. Here's the reality. The real world, who you really are, is the only place you can actually find long-term peace and happiness. You cannot find it with the substitute. So we're not helping anybody is the problem.
Well, and you can do things like commit suicide or just harm yourself when you live by concepts that you don't actually know what it means. Like, I watched this disgusting video yesterday. It was a boy in a dress, and he's being interviewed. And he's like, well, I was told I could be the president. And it's like, well, what would you change? And just like on cue, he's like, I would make it so everybody leaves transgender people alone and they can use whatever bathroom. Like, keep in mind, this kid's like 4 or 5, right? And it's like, somebody put those words in your mouth. Like, if I was your therapist, I would take a moment and I would say, you said that. Put that in your own words. What does that actually mean to you?
Yeah, it would come
Guaranteed. I bet my freaking license that kid would not know what those words mean. He could not put those words in his own context. Couldn't.
Yeah.
Because he was coached to say it.
So here's the thing. People are actually being programmed. People are actually being manipulated into thinking that they are things that they're not, and that there's happiness to find in places where it's not possible to find it. And to me, it's one of the most seditious things you can do is say, hey, here's this cookie. You want this cookie? Oh, no, actually, it's over there. Oh, no, it's over there. But I'm going to keep putting it in front of you, and you're never going to find it, and you're never going to taste it, and you're always seeking it. And this is the life of somebody in this. And when you seek for happiness in places where it can't be found, then all there is misery. And so if we are putting people there and we're keeping them there, then we are partially responsible. And maybe completely, if these are small children, for their state. And this is the thing, is this is why as therapists we're doing this podcast, because people need to know what we know.
Right.
We've come to learn things through seeing real people, and when real people come to you and say, this is misery, and you see it time and time and time again, you start to realize the world is full of lies about this thing. And here's the reality. It's a convenient way to get social kudos, to get invited into the cool club if you affirm somebody. But in reality, if you look underneath the surface, and we see behind the curtain in these families, and these parents who act like they're so affirming, they're monsters at home.
Right.
They're some of the worst parents you've ever met. But they get their social kudos because they're so affirming of their kids when all they're doing is leading them down the path of misery.
Well, not to mention, when you have no intrinsic value in yourself, you have no self-worth, you're only relying on external factors, you don't have something that's called distress tolerance, the ability to tolerate things that are distressing to you. That's why you get these, I will say these straight up kooky college kids that are like, well, Matt Walsh is threatening my life by speaking on campus. Or if Reality Check came and spoke on a college campus, Reality Check, Matt Armstrong and Chris Cooner just they're a threat to my life, right?
But the reality is, we're actually the kind of people that can lead someone, yes, down a road of some difficulty, but the difficulty you have to face to get to happiness. Ultimately, that's because. And so, let me give you this example. My kids, one of them recently suffered bullying at school and things. Really hard time and crying. I actually get a little bit happy when this happens, because what I realize is here's a chance, one, for me and my daughter to connect and to learn and to grow and to help her to face reality, which she did, and grow from it, which she did, and now is doing very, very well in that same context because she learned how to face it and she learned how to handle it in a mature way, and she's developing that tolerance you're talking about for discomfort, which is the thing. And so if we tell somebody, no, you don't go into that discomfort, you run away from it. See, we are only leading people to misery and destruction because that's weakness. It doesn't work in life. What works in life is strength and resilience and fortitude and finding yourself, believing in yourself, loving yourself. So how about this message? Okay, you're struggling. You know what? This person that's in there that I know you're not connected to, I love that person, and you will too, and we're going to find it. why would I say go be something else that can never make you happy when I can actually truly value you, and better than that, help you value you?
No.
And when you find it, it's like, wow. And I'm telling you this happens 100 times out of 100. When I can help people find themselves, and they actually, for the first time, get to know themselves and connect to it, they love that person.
Yeah.
They love that person. And it is the greatest thing for them, because they realize they were the solution. And this is what I tell everybody: you are the solution, not the problem. And when you tell someone to be a different gender, a different animal, or whatever, then you're telling them that you are the problem and something else is the solution. What a terrible message that is.
Yeah. And again, like, that is how you get offended by something as simple as words. Right? And that's why, and instead of maintaining a society that doesn't care about your feelings, in the sense of, like, we're going to keep functioning as a society, we're not going to cater to you, we're bending on a societal level to these weirdos, and it's actually causing their disability to be worse. Like, it's going to get worse if people keep this up. So now, like, I've transitioned the other way. Like, I will say some truly offensive crap just to get a rise out of people, and I'll be like, what value does that hit when I say things like that? Like, if I say, hey, that's retarded. Like, hey, what does that do for you? What does that mess with you on? Like, if I say if you are like, hey, I'm into this, I'm like, that sounds pretty gay. How does that offend you? Right? Like, let's actually examine what is going on inside you.
Well, see, you and I in therapy, we're a little bit more direct and blunt, and that's a little bit more your style than mine. But I do understand what you're doing, and you have to get real with people and have them get real with themselves to be able to grow and not be sensitive about things. Like, if something like that offends somebody, well, why, right? And we can actually find where are the holes where your personality is leaking out of, and let's patch those things up. And let's get you there.
And I won't let people wiggle out either. They're like, well, this community, no. How does it offend you? Not who are you being offended for? How does it offend you?
So we got to wrap this up, but here's how I want to wrap it up. When we have this message, it's often termed a message of hate and intolerance and all this. But I'm going to turn this on its head, because this is actually the only real message of love that there is.
No.
Because I love my children, and when they go through hard things, I help them face those hard things, and I help them grow. And that is the only way that you grow. So it is actually a message of love when you help people face reality, find themselves, connect with themselves, love themselves. And it's actually a message of hate when you tell them that the person inside of them is the problem and they need to go elsewhere. That is essentially trashing their own self-worth. So we're not obligated, as you said, to however you put it,
acknowledge your feelings.
Acknowledge your feelings and cater. But now it depends on where you are in society. That doesn't mean you walk around saying provocative things to everybody. That's not the point. The point is in these close personal relationships you have. If I want to be a real friend to someone, and I have a friend that was screwing up, I sent him a very passionate letter essentially saying, you're screwing up, you know, I'm your friend, I've loved you, I have done all these things for you, and I am angry at you, right? Yeah. I want to see you happy, I want us to be good friends. And my friends, they will come back and they will appreciate me, because sometimes those words are the things that snap them back out of it.
Yeah.
We have to realize happiness is hard.
Right.
Pain and suffering is the gateway to get to happiness. Yeah. And when we actually lead people and help people walk through those things, that's what friends are for, it's what families are for, it's what people like us, therapists, are for. When we help somebody go through pain and suffering and find themselves and love themselves, that's actually the only true expression of love that I believe there really is. And that will do it for today. Thank you for tuning in to Reality Check. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment below.
And if you know anyone else that could use a reality check, share the link.
See you next time.